The chamber was vast, beyond anything Marcus Webb had imagined. The Galactic Council Hall stretched upward for 3 kilometers, its walls made of living crystal that pulsed with light from 1,000 different worlds. He stood alone on a platform suspended in the middle of empty space, with nothing but air beneath. His feet and the judgment of 47 alien civilizations surrounding him. This was not how first contact was. Supposed to go. Marcus had been Earth's ambassador for only 6 months. He was a former military officer, chosen not for his diplomatic skills, but for his ability to stay calm under pressure. Right now, that training was being tested. Around him, arranged in rising circles like an ancient arena, sat the representatives of every major species in the known galaxy. Some looked vaguely humanoid. Others were so alien that Marcus could barely understand how they perceived reality. At the highest point sat High Chancellor Vermath of the Krillian hegemony. His 6 eyes gleamed as he leaned forward, and when he spoke, his words were translated into every language simultaneously by technology Marcus barely understood. The species from the 3rd planet of Sol System stands accused of illegal militarization. You have broken the laws of civilized space. You have built weapons of war while claiming to seek peace. How do you answer these charges? Marcus took a slow breath. 3 months ago, he had stood in this same chamber with evidence of an approaching threat. He had shown them sensor data, mathematical models, and urgent warnings about something called the Devourers. Massive ships from beyond the galaxy, consuming everything in their path. The Council had laughed at him, called it primitive paranoia, told humanity to disarm and stop being afraid of shadows. Now they were demanding Earth surrender its defenses. "We came to you in peace," Marcus said, his voice carrying through the chamber. "We showed you proof of the danger coming toward all of us. You dismissed it. You told us we were imagining threats. And now you want us to remove the only things that can protect our world." A rippling sound came from the lower tiers. It was laughter. Ambassador Taishlix of the Serpentine Concordat rose from his seat, his scales catching the light. Protection from what, human? From phantoms? From empty space? Your species discovered faster than light travel 60 years ago. We have sailed the stars for thousands of years. Do you truly believe you understand the galaxy better than we do? Marcus clenched his fists. I believe survival. I believe in preparing for the worst and hoping for the best. You asked what we are protecting ourselves from. The answer is simple. From anything that threatens Earth, including this council, if necessary. The laughter stopped. Silence filled the massive chamber. Marcus had just committed diplomatic suicide, and he knew it. But he was tired of playing games while something deadly moved closer to inhabited space. High Chancellor Volmath's translator made a sound like grinding metal. You dare threaten this council? I state facts. You demand we disarm. We refuse. You threaten to enforce your will. We will resist. These are not threats. These are statements of intention. Marcus pulled a small data chip from his pocket and held it up. This chip contains our official response to your demands. But I will tell you the short version right now. He looked around at the assembled aliens, at faces and forms that represented thousands of worlds and trillions of beings. They had never known real war, never faced extinction. They expanded into a mostly empty galaxy and called themselves civilized because they rarely had to fight for resources. Earth was different. Humanity grew up on a single world where everything was limited, where tribes fought tribes, nations fought nations, and survival meant being better at violence than your neighbor. 10,000 years of warfare had taught humans things these aliens had never needed to learn. My species has been killing each other since before we had written language, Marcus said quietly. We perfected war. We refined it. We built weapons that could destroy our own planet. And do you want to know what we learned from all that death and suffering? The chamber waited. We learned that the biggest mistake you can make is underestimating prey. Because sometimes prey fights back. And when it does, predators learn fear. Marcus dropped the data chip. It fell through the air below the platform, vanishing into the darkness. That chip contained treaties and compromises, offers of cooperation. But since you have decided to treat us as criminals rather than allies, here is our real answer. He turned to face High Chancellor Vermath directly. Come and take our weapons. Send your fleets. Bring your armies. And when you are done burying your dead, remember that we tried to warn you. Not just about our capabilities, but about the real threat coming from deep space. When the Devourers arrive and you are running scared, looking for someone to save you, remember this moment. Remember that you chose pride over survival. Marcus began walking toward the exit platform. Behind him, chaos erupted. Representatives shouted questions and accusations. Some called for his immediate arrest. Others demanded military action against Earth. But Marcus did not look back. He had delivered his message. The galaxy wanted war. Humanity would give them one, but not the war they expected. 2 weeks later, the first Galactic Council inspection fleet entered human space. Their mission was to verify that Earth was dismantling its military capabilities. The fleet consisted of 12 ships, carrying enough firepower to destroy a small planet. They never returned. Instead, each ship was found drifting in space 3 days later. The crews were alive but unconscious, sleeping peacefully in their bunks. Every weapon system had been carefully disabled. Every computer core had been wiped clean. And written across the hull of each ship, in glowing letters visible from 1,000 kilometers away, was a simple message in every galactic language. You were warned. No one had seen who attacked the fleet. No sensors had detected any ships approaching. The Council inspection vessels had simply gone to sleep, and when they woke up, they were defenseless. High Chancellor Vermath stood in his private chambers, reading the reports with growing concern. The humans had struck without being detected, had disabled ships without killing anyone, had sent a message without saying a word. This was not the behavior of primitives. This was the work of a species that understood psychological warfare. He activated his communication array and sent orders to the Krillian military command. Assemble a proper war fleet. Hundreds of ships. Show these humans what happens when you defy the Council. But in the back of his mind, a small voice whispered a question he did not want to answer. What if the humans were right about the Devourers? What if they were preparing for a real threat while the Council wasted time on politics? He pushed the thought away. The Council had maintained peace for 1,000 years. They knew what they were doing. The humans were just paranoid newcomers who did not understand how civilized species behaved. He would learn too late that sometimes paranoia is just another word for preparation. Admiral Corvex stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion and allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Behind his flagship stretched the largest military force the Krillian hegemony had assembled in 3 centuries. 400 warships, each one carrying enough firepower to reduce a moon to debris. This was not a police action. This was an overwhelming demonstration of power. The humans would see this fleet and surrender immediately. There was no other logical choice. Admiral, we are approaching the human defensive perimeter, his tactical officer reported. Scanning for their fleet positions now. The displays lit up with contacts. Human ships were scattered across the system in what appeared to be random patterns. No proper formation. No coordinated defensive grid. They looked like they were still fighting wars in a single solar system, not defending against a galactic power. They are completely unprepared, the tactical officer said with evident contempt. They have not even established A proper battle line. Corvex was not so confident. Something about the seemingly random distribution bothered him. But orders were orders. High Chancellor Vormath wanted humanity brought to heel, and the Krillian hegemony would deliver. All ships advance in formation. Prepare to broadcast surrender terms. The massive fleet moved forward like a wall of steel and energy. They crossed into human territory, their sensors sweeping space for threats. The human ships did not move, did not respond, just sat in their strange scattered positions, waiting. Then everything changed. Admiral, weapon signatures detected. But they are not coming from the human ships. They are coming from everywhere. Corvex barely had time to process those words before the ambush began. What his fleet had identified as commercial satellites suddenly revealed their true purpose. Missile platforms disguised as communication relays. Orbital refineries that were actually weapons stations. Mining facilities that launched attack drones by the hundreds. The humans had weaponized everything. Every piece of infrastructure, every civilian installation, every object floating in space had been turned into a potential threat. And they all activated at once. The Krillian formation shattered within minutes. Ships that had been flying in perfect military precision suddenly found themselves under attack from 6 different directions. Captains who had trained for years in proper fleet tactics discovered that none of their training mattered when the enemy refused to fight properly, but the weapons were only part of the problem. What truly terrified Corvex was how the humans fought. They did not form lines and exchange fire like civilized warriors. They struck from unexpected angles, used destroyed ships as cover, even weaponized their own damaged vessels by ramming them into Krillian cruisers at full speed. They fight like animals, his tactical officer shouted over the alarms. They have no honor, no discipline. No, Corvex whispered, watching another of his destroyers explode. They fight like hunters who know they are outmatched. This is not random. This is calculated savagery. The battle lasted 6 brutal hours. When it finally ended, the Krillian fleet had lost 160 ships. The humans had lost 12. And every surviving Krillian captain received the same transmission on their emergency channels. A human face appeared on their screens. It was Marcus Webb, the ambassador who had defied the council. You were told to leave our space. This is your only warning. The next fleet you send will not get one. Go back to your council. Tell them what happened here. Tell them that humanity does not surrender. We fight, and we are very, very good at it. The transmission ended. Corvex stared at the blank screen, then at his casualty reports. 160 ships destroyed, thousands of crew dead, and the humans were barely scratched. He had been a military officer for 40 years, had commanded fleets in a dozen minor conflicts, but he had never seen anything like this. The humans did not just win the battle. They made it look easy. Set course for home, he ordered quietly, and send a priority message to High Chancellor Vormath. Tell him we need to reconsider our approach to humanity. Back at the Galactic Council headquarters, the response to the Krillian defeat was predictable chaos. Representatives shouted accusations and demands. The Krillian hegemony called for total war. The Serpentine Concordat wanted humanity declared an enemy of civilization. Only a few voices urged caution. Representative Dalmora of the Peaceful Collective stood and waited for silence. Her species rarely spoke in council sessions, preferring observation to argument. When she did speak, others usually listened. We are making a terrible mistake, she said in her 3-part harmonized voice. We demanded the humans disarm in the face of a threat we refused to investigate. They refused. We sent a fleet to force compliance. They defended themselves. And now we call them aggressors. They destroyed a Krillian fleet, Taishlik hissed. They are dangerous. They are survivors, Dalmora corrected. And while we debate politics, their original warning goes unexamined. 3 more systems in the Terminus region have gone silent in the past month. No distress calls, no debris. Just empty space where civilizations used to exist. High Chancellor Vormath slammed his appendage on the podium. The Council will not be distracted by human fear tactics. If the Krillian fleet was insufficient, we will assemble a coalition. Every member species will contribute vessels. We will show these primitives what happens when you defy galactic law. The vote was called. 39 species voted for war. 8 abstained. None voted against. The galaxy was uniting against humanity. On Earth, General Rita Valdez received the intelligence reports and smiled grimly. The Council was assembling over 1,000 ships from dozens of different species. An overwhelming force that could reduce Earth to rubble. They are playing right into our hands, she said to her staff. Different species means different command structures, different communication protocols, different tactical doctrines. They will spend half their time trying to coordinate with each other. General, even with those disadvantages, 1,000 ships is 1,000 ships. We cannot win a direct engagement. We are not going to fight a direct engagement. We are going to do what humanity has always done when facing superior numbers. We adapt, we improvise. We survive. She pulled up a star chart. And we make sure the Council fleet is exactly where we need them when the Devourers arrive. You want to use the Council as bait? I want to make sure everyone survives the next few months. If that means manipulating galactic politics and battle positions, then that is what we do. Get me Ambassador Webb. It is time to give the Council another warning. One they will definitely ignore. The Coalition fleet gathered at Rally Point Nexus was the most powerful military force ever assembled. 1,372 ships from 40 different species, each one representing the finest military technology their civilization could produce. High Chancellor Vermath stood aboard the command carrier Unity's hammer and felt satisfaction wash over him. The humans would see this fleet and finally understand their place in the galaxy. All battle groups report ready, High Chancellor, the fleet coordinator announced. We can begin final approach to Earth system on your command. Vermath opened his mouth to give the order. Then every alarm in the fleet screamed at once. Contact, someone shouted. Multiple contacts. They are everywhere. The view screen shifted to show space itself tearing open. Not normal hyperspace exits. These were something else entirely. Wounds in reality that bled darkness into normal space. And through them came ships unlike anything in the galactic database. The Devourers had arrived. They were massive. The smallest one dwarfed the largest Coalition battleship. Their design made no sense, combining organic and mechanical elements in ways that violated known physics. And there were hundreds of them, pouring through rifts in space like insects from a disturbed nest. By all the ancestors, Vermath whispered. The humans were telling the truth. The Devourers did not broadcast greetings or demands. They simply attacked. And the Coalition fleet, despite its size and power, discovered it was completely unprepared for this kind of enemy. Each species had different protocols for combat. The Krillian ships wanted to form tight battle lines. The Serpentine vessels preferred stealth and ambush. The peaceful collective ships needed time to charge their weapons. When the Devourers struck, the Coalition response was pure chaos. Ships collided, trying to maneuver. Battle groups opened fire without coordinating, hitting their own allies as often as the enemy in 15 minutes. The Coalition fleet lost more vessels than the entire Krillian war with humanity. Then the humans arrived. Marcus Webb's face appeared on every Coalition ship's command screen, overriding their systems with insulting ease. Behind him, Admiral Corvex could see human vessels moving in complex patterns, striking the Devourers from unexpected angles. Coalition fleet, we tracked the Devourers to your position. You have two choices. Keep fighting them alone and die in the next hour, or follow our tactical coordination and maybe survive the day. How dare you presume to command this fleet? Vermath began. But another Devourer ship tore through 3 Coalition cruisers, and his protest died. I am transmitting tactical protocols now, Marcus continued. Your ships are too big, too slow, and too predictable. The Devourers will tear you apart. But if you work with us, we can hurt them. Choose quickly. You have about 30 seconds before another wave hits. Admiral Corvex made his decision. He had fought the humans. He knew what they were capable of. More importantly, he knew they understood war in a way his species did not. All Krillian ships, except human protocols, integrate with their battle network immediately. Admiral, the High Chancellor has not authorized this, his second officer protested. The High Chancellor is not about to lose his entire fleet because of pride. Accept their protocols now. One by one, Coalition vessels began integrating with the human tactical network. And slowly, the tide of battle began to shift. The humans fought like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. They used destroyed ships as weapons, accelerating debris into Devourer formations. They deployed mines on mobile platforms that actively hunted targets. They sacrificed damaged vessels to create openings for Coalition heavy weapons. Every move was calculated, every attack coordinated with ruthless efficiency. But what truly amazed the Coalition forces was how human ships worked together. Every vessel seemed to know where every other vessel was, anticipating movements, covering weaknesses, creating opportunities. They moved like a single organism with 1,000 bodies. How are they coordinating so perfectly? Corvex demanded. There is no detectable command signal. No central control. Marcus's voice cut into the channel. He had heard the question. Not command signals, experience. My species has been fighting in groups since we hunted with stone weapons. We call it pack tactics. Now break your fleet into smaller groups. 20 ships maximum. Assign each group a human coordinator. Do it now, before they adapt to our patterns. The battle raged for 6 brutal hours. Devourer ships were destroyed or disabled, but the cost was terrible. 300 Coalition vessels lost. Thousands of crew dead. The human fleet lost 68 ships. Each sacrificed buying time for Coalition forces to reposition. And then, just as suddenly as they appeared, the Devourers retreated. They pulled back through their dimensional rifts, leaving behind wreckage and silence dot in the aftermath. High Chancellor Vermath found himself on a private channel with General Valdez. The human general looked tired but calm. You were right, Vermath said quietly. About everything. The Devourers. The threat. All of it. Being right does not win wars, Valdez replied. Chancellor, what you saw today was a scouting force. The main swarm is still coming. We estimate 3 weeks until they reach our defensive lines. And there are thousands more ships behind them. Vermath felt cold fear settle into his chest. A scouting force? But there were hundreds of ships, and there are tens of thousands more behind them. Maybe hundreds of thousands. Our deepest probes have not found the end of their formation. Valdez leaned forward. You have a choice. Spend the next month punishing us for insubordination, or recognize that humanity has been fighting to survive since before we had language, and maybe you need us more than we need you. What are you proposing? A real alliance. You have numbers and resources. We have tactics and experience. Together, we might survive. Separately, we all die. Valdez paused. I know this is hard for you. accepting help from the species you are about to invade. But I need you to put aside pride and politics. Lives depend on it. Your people's lives. Vermath looked at the casualty reports. 300 ships. Thousands of dead. And this was just the beginning. I will convene an emergency council session. We will discuss terms. Do it quickly. 3 weeks until the main swarm arrives. And Chancellor, this time listen to the warning. The emergency council session happened not in grand chambers, but via military channels, as fleets regrouped and worlds prepared for invasion. General Valdez and Ambassador Webb projected into the council's shared virtual space, surrounded by holographic representatives from 47 species. 3 weeks, Valdez said without diplomatic niceties. That is how long we have until the main devourer swarm reaches our defensive positions. I will not pretend we can win a conventional battle. Their numbers are too vast. But we can survive, if you follow our strategy. Representative Teichlicks, still skeptical despite recent events, hissed a question. And what strategy do humans propose? More chaotic tactics? No, Webb answered. We propose the oldest strategy in human history, the one our ancestors used when facing predators bigger and stronger than themselves. We are going to lead the devourers into a trap. Not one trap, 1,000 traps spread across 100 star systems. We are going to fight them the way our ancestors fought wolves and bears. We are going to make them bleed for every light year they advance. He pulled up a star map showing the predicted path of the devourer swarm. Red markers indicated ambush points, fallback positions, and supply caches. We are going to teach the galaxy how to hunt. The training began immediately. Human advisors spread across allied fleets, sharing concepts that seemed obvious to them, but revolutionary to species that had never faced. Existential War. Captain James Foster found himself aboard a Krillian battleship, trying to explain guerrilla warfare to Admiral Corvex and his officers. The Krillian military mind struggled with the concept. You do not stand and fight? Corvex asked, confusion evident in his voice. You hit the enemy and then run away? Not run. Reposition, Foster corrected, moving holographic pieces around a tactical display. You attack where they are weak, then disappear before they can respond effectively. Make them chase you. Wear them down. 1,000 small cuts instead of one big battle that you might lose. This seems dishonorable, cowardly. Foster smiled without humor. Honor is what you have when you can afford it, Admiral. Right now, none of us can afford honor. We can only afford survival. And survival means using every advantage, every trick, every dirty tactic we know. The devourers will not fight honorably. Why should we? Similar conversations happened across the Allied forces. Human tactical doctrine spread rapidly, adapted and modified by each species. The Serpentine Concordat, with their natural camouflage abilities, became masters of ambush warfare. The Peaceful Collective learned to weaponize stellar phenomena, using solar flares and asteroid fields as natural traps. Even the rigid Krillian hegemony began to understand the value of flexibility and improvisation. When the Devourer main swarm arrived, it was worse than predicted. 6,000 ships, each one massive and terrifying. But they did not find static defenses or waiting battle fleets. Instead, they found empty space, abandoned outposts, evacuated colonies. Nothing to attack. Where are they hiding? General Valdez asked, monitoring sensor feeds from Earth's command center. The Devourers should have detected our forces by now. They are searching, her tactical officer reported. Breaking formation to cover more territory. Perfect. Signal all units. Phase 1 complete. Begin Phase 2. The long run starts now. Across 20 star systems, Allied forces struck simultaneously, not at the main swarm, but at isolated devourer ships that had separated from the formation. Small groups of 3 to 5 vessels, caught by coordinated attacks from multiple directions. The devourers adapted quickly, pulling their formation tighter. But that was exactly what the humans wanted. Tighter formations meant more resource consumption, more predictable movements, fewer opportunities to spread and search. Lieutenant Emma Rodriguez commanded a mixed species squadron. Her ship worked alongside Serpentine stealth cruisers and Krillian destroyers. They specialized in what humans called harassment operations, destroying supply lines, eliminating scout ships, making every devourer movement costly and dangerous. During one engagement near the Altair Belt, her squadron faced 3 devourer vessels. Standard military doctrine said retreat. They were outgunned and outnumbered. Instead, Rodriguez ordered her ships to split up, each taking a different vector through an asteroid field. Split up? Her Krillian wingmen protested. That violates all formation protocols. That is the point, Rodriguez replied calmly. They expect us to stay together. We are going to use that expectation against them. Trust me. The Devourers, as predicted, split their forces to chase each Allied ship. And that was when the trap activated. Each Allied vessel had led its pursuer into pre-positioned minefields, coordinated so that when one Devourer dodged a mine, it flew directly into another cluster. 2 Devourer ships were destroyed. The third retreated with heavy damage. Unorthodox tactics confirmed effective, Rodriguez reported to Fleet Command. Devourers can be outmaneuvered if you make them think predictably. Similar reports flooded in from across the war zone. The Devourers, for all their power and numbers, were learning that this prey fought back intelligently. More importantly, this prey thought in ways they could not predict. 3 months into the war, the Devourer swarm had lost over 1/3 of its ships. But the cost to the Allies was severe. Entire worlds evacuated. Fleets reduced to scattered battle groups. Resources stretched dangerously thin. In the Mobile Council Command Station, High Chancellor Vermath looked exhausted and old. We cannot sustain this much longer, he told Valdez during a private communication. Our species are not built for prolonged warfare. The constant stress, the mounting losses, the endless vigilance. It is breaking us. I know, Valdez said quietly. But we are almost there. 1 more month, maybe 2. The Devourers are slowing down. They are learning caution, making mistakes. That means we are winning. Winning? We have lost hundreds of ships, millions of lives. But we are still here, still fighting. That is what winning looks like when you face extinction. Not glory, not easy victory. Just survival, one day at a time. Valdez paused. Chancellor, there is one more thing humanity can teach the galaxy. Sometimes survival is not about defeating the enemy completely. It is about making them decide you cost too much to fight. We are going to make the Devourers understand that lesson. The final confrontation came at the Nexus Divide, a vast region where 3 major trade routes converged. The Devourer swarm, reduced but still formidable with over 3,000 ships, had been carefully herded to this location through months of tactical pressure and calculated retreats. General Valdez stood in the war room aboard Earth's flagship Indomitable, surrounded by displays showing positions of over 2,000 Allied vessels. Representatives from every Council species monitored their battle groups, faces showing exhaustion and determination in equal measure. Final positions confirmed, Admiral Korvex reported. The Krillian officer had changed over months of war, learned to think like a hunter instead of a conqueror. All battle groups ready? Devourer swarm entering the kill zone now, added Commander Taishmora, daughter of the Serpentine ambassador. She too had learned hard lessons about survival and sacrifice. Valdez took a deep breath. This was the culmination of 6 months of bleeding and dying. One final gamble using everything humanity knew about warfare, and everything the galaxy had learned from them. All ships. Execute Protocol Endgame. What happened next would be studied by military strategists for generations. The Allied fleet did not charge forward in glorious assault. Instead, they activated something humanity had been quietly building for months, with help from 47 species worth of scientific knowledge. A network of gravity wells, powered by artificial singularities, erupted across the Nexus Divide. Space itself bent and twisted, creating corridors where ships could move safely, while anything outside. Those corridors would be torn apart by gravitational forces. The Devourers found themselves in a maze. A killing ground with only one path forward, and that path was defended by every Allied ship in the galaxy. "This is insane," High Chancellor Vormath breathed, watching the tactical display. "You have weaponized space itself." "We have created a funnel," Webb corrected. "They can come through one at a time and fight us on equal terms. Or they can try breaking the gravity wells and die in the process. Either way, the numbers advantage is gone." The battle lasted 36 hours of continuous combat. The Devourers, realizing they were trapped, fought with desperate fury. But channeled through the gravitational corridors, they could not use their superior numbers. Each ship that emerged faced concentrated fire from multiple directions. The Allied fleet fought with precision that would have been impossible 6 months earlier. Human tactics refined by galactic innovation. Pack hunting on a cosmic scale. Every species contributed their unique strengths. Krillian heavy weapons. Serpentine stealth strikes. Peaceful collective energy manipulation. All coordinated through human tactical networks. Lieutenant Rodriguez's squadron scored the final critical victory when their missiles destroyed the last Devourer command ship. The remaining enemy vessels, suddenly without coordination, began retreating back through their dimensional rifts. "Should we pursue and finish them?" Corvex asked, eager to press the advantage. "No," Valdez ordered firmly. "Let them go. Let them return to wherever they came from. Let them tell their swarm what happened here." "What did happen here?" Vermath asked quietly. Valdez smiled grimly. "They learned that some prey bites back. That lesson will keep them away longer than destroying a few more ships would." 2 weeks after the battle, the Galactic Council convened, in person for the first time since the war began. They met not in traditional grand chambers, but in a modest hall on a reconstructed orbital station. The old venues seemed wrong now, too disconnected from the reality everyone had faced. Ambassador Webb stood before them, but this time he was not alone. General Valdez, Admiral Corvex, Commander Tishmora, and officers from every allied species stood with him. High Chancellor Vormath rose to speak, and the chamber fell silent. When he began, his voice carried weight that had nothing to do with political authority. 6 months ago, I stood before this council and called humanity warmongers. I dismissed your warnings. I ordered your disarmament and threatened invasion. He paused, and shame crossed his features. I nearly doomed us all through arrogance and ignorance. You were not alone in that failure, Dalmora of the Peaceful Collective added gently. We all refused to understand. The galaxy has been at peace so long that we forgot what war truly means. We forgot that peace requires strength to maintain. But humanity remembered, Tishmora said, her scales shifting in a gesture of respect. You taught us how to survive. Webb shook his head. We did not teach you war. You learned that yourselves, painfully. What we taught you was something else. That survival is not pretty or glorious. It is doing whatever it takes to protect your people and your future. Every species here faced extinction. You could have surrendered or fled. Instead, you learned to fight. You discovered something that was always inside you. We just showed you where to look. General Valdez stepped forward. The Devourers will return. Maybe not this year. Maybe not in 10 years. But they will come back. When they do, we need to be ready. Not as 47 separate species playing political games. As a real alliance with shared command structures, joint training, and integrated fleets. That would require surrendering sovereignty, one representative protested. It requires choosing survival over pride, Valdez corrected. You can keep your independence and die separately. Or you can work together and live. Your choice. The chamber erupted in debate. Some representatives argued passionately against change. Others recognized necessity. The discussion raged for hours, voices raised in anger and fear and hope. Finally, Dalmor arose and silenced the room with a gesture. I propose a vote. Not on whether humanity was right. We know they were. But on whether we have courage to change. To become something new. She looked at Webb. You came with a warning we ignored. You fought a war we forced on you. Despite everything, you saved us. The question now is whether we will save ourselves. The vote was called. This time it was unanimous. The Galactic Defense Coalition was born. 5 years later, Admiral Rodriguez walked through training facilities on Proxima Station. Around her, recruits from 24 species practiced human-designed combat simulations. A young Krillian officer approached and saluted. Admiral, the new recruits are asking about the war. What it was really like. Rodriguez smiled. The recruits were too young to remember the fear and desperation. They only knew stories and legends. Tell them the truth. It was terrifying. We lost friends and worlds. There were moments we thought we would lose everything. She paused. And then tell them we won. Not because we were stronger or had better weapons. We won because we refused to give up. Because we learned that predators are not the biggest or strongest. They are the ones who want it more. Her communicator chimed. It was Ambassador Webb from Earth. Rodriguez, new sensor readings from deep space probes. Something different approaching. Not devourers. How long? A year, maybe 2. Rodriguez felt familiar tension return. The war might be over, but the galaxy was not getting safer. Then we better get ready. At least this time, the galaxy knows how to fight back. She looked at the recruits training in the distance. A new generation learning humanity's oldest lessons. The hunt was never truly over. It just changed prey. But now the galaxy knew how to hunt back. Retriclod can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.